office, but I got locked out, so I'm in my house instead.
It's okay. It's how it is these days, right? Everybody's kind of locked out home.
Charlie, you better, when we start, you better mute everyone.
Are we starting now?
Are we good? Sure, why not? We could just get it started.
Okay.
It is 7.
Steady? Ready? Do you feel the light? Whoa. All right, welcome. So let's start this with a good meditation just to get into our heart. And I'm going to ask everybody maybe to put their hands over their heart. You know, let's take a moment, put our hands over our heart. And let's start to just feel our heart, actually center ourselves at our heart. Maybe you close your eyes, maybe keep it open. Really, it's about centering yourself, breathing deeply, and connecting from the top of your body to the bottom of your body, connecting right at your heart. Take that moment, take this time to center yourself so that we are centered in this space from the heart. And so that we share and we do whatever we do today, that we do it from the heart. Whatever we speak about, whatever we connect about, whatever we share, collaborate. Let's think about our heart and let's think about all the other hearts and how we can be of service to ourselves and others. And take a moment to also light this light. And however you want, say whatever prayer you want, but let's call in whatever energy you want. It's a full moon. You want to clear something? You want to bring something in? Awesome. Slowly take your time, come back into your body, into the space. The Cosmic Labyrinth, Friday Night Live, Friday, May 8th. Wherever you are in the cosmic reality, the cosmic space, here we are together. We're like here together across space. And so, before we get into this amazing offering that we have today, I think, we need to think about and just take a quick little gratitude for everything being possible for us to be possible here. Like our parents, our families, our teachers, our mentors, our education, our relationships, everything, the permaculture, the nature, the microorganisms outside, the microorganisms inside, everything, the cosmic, whatever's going on in this place. So thank you to all of that. I want to start off by sharing the two other gentlemen that are part of this Cosmic Trinity that allowed this show, this Cosmic Labyrinth Friday Night Live thing to happen. This amazing Cosmic Trinity. So I'm going to start off with the oldest of us. and let everybody know. Wait, I forgot. Wait, Charlie's the oldest.
Yep.
So Charlie is amazing. He worked for Disney for many years, doing game development, doing some amazing work in the video game and the storytelling aspects. And he's a computer engineer. That he's got a great background. I got to say, one of the most amazing people I know because he's like a modern day wizard. Understanding technology because he's a computer engineer, but he's also now studying Chinese medicine, and he's a storyteller, and he's also interested in astrology and connecting astrology in a very practical, pragmatic way. So he's amazing because he's like this modern day wizard who's very practical. Like he's based in, he'll tell you he's all about the what's it called? What sign were you that's particularly
Virgo. Detail oriented. Yeah.
Virgo. So that's Charlie. Charlie's amazing, and so he's a big part of what we do here. Making sure everything is up and running and just rocking it, bro. Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you for that great introduction. Yeah, just like Indy said, my background is in technology, but what I found is there's something kind of missing, and gaming is where I found a lot of that technology and how technology can actually have more of a spiritual embodiment, right? Because the simulations and the game that we play actually teaches more about ourselves because we're now interacting with the art that we create. So understanding that and understanding how our world really works, I really understood more about our body as the avatar. And understanding that and reframing our ability to understand this body that was created for us to play in this physical world. And so finding astrology as a way to guide us into understanding the patterns that unfold and expresses themselves, and then looking closer at your health and understanding how your health is actually more of a manifestation of what your spirit is choosing to do in this lifetime. And so because of that, you actually have different constitution to allow you to do different things. So it's really important that we start to look at health as an individual concept where everyone has different health needs. And it's about looking towards that way so that we become more holistic in understanding how our health is. So I love going into Chinese medicine because that's given me kind of like the structure to put the technology on top of ancient technology, right? Because this technology of Chinese medicine's been around for so long, I mean, thousands of years. So being able to connect it with modern day technology, because we use computers now all the time, and that's using chi really.
I think one of my favorite things, Charlie, if I must interject, I have to say it's amazing how you are able to articulate how the body works, the nervous system, the electrical gradients, and you compared it to how there's a hardware, right? With like computers and laptops and smartphones they use like a certain type of wiring, and we all have that wiring too. And understanding that wiring is how we also understand health as well.
Exactly. And then we'll go into the software, which is the actual mental health, right? Understanding how our computer software runs and if it has bugs because it's stuck in a loop, because we actually go into loops. And when you see your computer freeze, it's a loop. You go into emotional blockage, and that happens in our own.
What about OCD? OCD, right? Example, right?
Right. It's a program that keeps running a really fast loop that just won't close until you complete the loop. So I have to do this 3 times before I finish my task. So anyways, I really love the idea of being able to reframe health, but really finding balance between technology and nature. And we are the combination of technology and nature. And I love to explore this with everybody that shows up in the Cosmic Labyrinth. So thank you.
Excellent. Yes.
Thank you, brother.
Awesome. I mean, I can also jump in there and tell you about Mick, and Mick is awesome too because he's like the quintessential modern day Renaissance man. He's like mixing science and art. He's been a part of several art gallery showings. One of them that I know about that I went to was at UCLA, where he showcases art that was connecting science and art, and in almost like educational, but also like reminding the scientists how important understanding art and the humanities is in the work that they do. So I think that's where Mick is really awesome. He's at the intersection of science and art, and he's right in the middle of it. And then he also does a lot of great volunteering work, working with inner city kids, bringing arts education and science education to them in a creative way, which we all need that because we didn't have that as kids, right? And then at the same time, what I love about Mick is that he also he dives deep. Like he'll tell you about Kundalini and whatever, and he has had his journeys, diving deep into cultures and being culturally intelligent, especially as a white dude, it's really awesome that he's like explores the culture and he goes in, like he dives in fully and tries and appreciates and gives back to those spaces too. So I honor that about Mick. And if you want to say anything, Mick, about what you think about this and redefining health.
Yeah. Thank you for the amazing introduction as usual, Indy. So I mean, we've all gone through many journeys, right? And I think that's what's so beautiful about this Cosmic Labyrinth and what we're doing together. And it's beautiful to see all of you joining us today because I feel like a big part of what redefining health is for me is redefining the materialistic construct that we have. I mean, what really spurred me into thinking about health was going through trauma as a child and having to deal with it through meditation, finding meditation techniques that could help me deal with those traumas, and then seeing my own father, my stepfather, pass away from leukemia, and seeing how that process, which a lot of people saw as a kind of like, this was actually a show that Indy saw. It was a project about what my father went through. and from the outside, it looks like this horrible thing that he died of leukemia, but I saw him go through a huge spiritual transformation. So I think it's really important to redefine health also outside of this body's specific body's health, and like considering the body's health as a vessel for our soul's development and spiritual growth, but also understanding that the experiences of the body can sometimes be difficult as a way of refining our soul's health as well, you know. And of course, I would have loved for my father to, you know, survive through the leukemia. But I also saw that that was a transformation that had to happen, and it transformed the whole family as well, you know. And so, you know, I came through to Kundalini and to many other practices, and dealing with, you know, a lot of it through creativity and art and science practice was kind of like the intersection that I found, you know. So, of course, bringing all those realizations to as many people as I can through volunteering for the homeless, to going to the inner city. Those are all really important aspects to me, to share that. So it's a blessing to be with you guys. Yeah.
Okay, I'm back. So, I don't know, who am I? It's not really important. I think what's important is that, you know, we kind of, you know, take this conversation, we, you know, keep something in mind. I mean, all I can say is, number one, if you're an alphabet person out there, FBI, CIA, NSA, whatever, or even any like WHO, whatever you are, right? I'll just say one thing, like health, a lot of health is about joy, you know, and even you guys out there, whoever's watching this, it's like, let's talk about joy. Let's talk about how joy and health are related, and how when we pursue those with each other too, how it's better. And, you know, and I'll challenge you, anybody out there that I can help you, or not help is not, I can share with you ways to experience joy. And if I don't know it right now, we could figure it out. And that's what this conversation is how do we find ways to redefine health in a way that motivates people to want to do it, that really inspires them. Like no matter who they are, what walk of life they are, what culture, what dynamics, you know, they are interested in improving their well-being, improving their health, and maybe experiencing the world better, maybe experiencing joy and happiness even better than they could be right now, right? Like, so for me, that's health. And I'm just excited to be able to share it with you guys, to be able to have fun. We'll play music. I mean, I'm excited. You know, we're gonna do. We have a couple of things coming up, but we're definitely gonna be sharing some music in the future episodes, where people are gonna be showcasing art in future episodes. So we're gonna every week we're gonna come with something new. Today's is health, so even those guests we have on today are really amazing people in the field of health. Like, they're avant-garde, they're the Renaissance, you know. So what we're trying to do is introduce the cosmic Renaissance to everybody, and that's, here we are. You know, we are the Renaissance right here, just in this group right now. We're already a Renaissance, but beyond this, you know, when we can extrapolate this voice, whoa, what can we do? You know, what can we do when we what is it called? Resonance, when we double layer up the resonance with each other.
Indeed.
That being said,
before you move on, I do want to interject. You should really do talk about your history and your background, because it does actually take a lot of credibility in this conversation we're having today in health. I mean, you know, let's not think that you're just a hippie. You came from really, like, you came from the pre-med space. Come on. You were there.
What are you talking about? I'm not a hippie.
Before you became a free man to do whatever he wants, you know, you went through it too. You know, we've all been through it, and you have to explain.
Dude, I mean, listen, I'm not only a hippie. I'm not only a hippie. I'm a heady. I'm a shouldery. I'm a hardy. I'm also a leggy. I do legs too.
Full body. I'm full
body.
Sorry, I did not mean to only look at your hips.
I can do my hips. I'm Indian, bro. I'm Indian. I can do hips all day. So you guys know my Indian people out there. My Indian people know. The people who've been to India, you know what's up. You know the hips. Hips don't lie. So, yeah. I mean, yeah, thank you, Charlie. You know, for me, I went to medical school and I burned out. You know, I didn't have the support group. I didn't have the community. I didn't have a lot of things that would have helped support me in that space, because I had a lot of questions. You know, when I grew up, I wanted to be a scientist, right? I was really interested in being an inventor, right? And so when I got to med school, I was like, wait, this wasn't science. I actually got really depressed when I found out, you know, we weren't really practicing science. And that messed me up, you know, and I didn't have the support. And so when I fell apart, you know, it really took a deep, dark abyss for me to really fall hard. You know, I can get really emotional about it, but I'm not going to wait. I'm not going to spend it now. And I'll say that, it was tough. I was going to die, and what brought me out was meditation, reconnecting to my heritage, my culture, right? Reconnecting to being sick and connecting to Ayurveda and yoga and diving in deeply, just like a scientist, approaching all of it like a scientist. But unfortunately, it's not appreciated by modern science. But here's where our conversation comes in. How do we now integrate all these different ideas? That's been my journey. After yoga and Ayurveda, I was like, wait, I want to learn about all this stuff. And there's so much stuff that people have been researching about health for hundreds of thousands of years. Like, let's take some of that knowledge, let's connect it and combine it. And even with technology. So here we are, connecting tech, creating apps. I'm really interested in developing well-being apps, and we're working on one called NOLA. We're doing this Cosmic Lab for kids and adults, but it's about early childhood development along with inner child development, right? I see a lot of people's mental illness is related to their inner child being hurt. So how do we do all these things but have fun? And so that's where I'm at now. I think laughter is a panacea. I think we have like this amazing opportunity to understand we can hack our mind and body. Like neuroplasticity is amazing, but how do we do it with heart? Like, how do we do neuroplasticity not with like another machine that we put another machine on our head, like, oh my God, neuroplasticity, I'm feeling it, No, like, what if we can do it through our heart, through connecting with nature, helping each other, serving each other, having fun, creating art, all kinds of stuff. Anyways, I can go on and on and on, but that's what brings me here is this offering and what we're doing right here, and I'm so passionate about it. And in about 10 minutes or so, we're gonna start bringing on our guests. And like, I do want to bring up one thing really quick. I want to bring up, what is health? Like, let's talk about that for the rest of the show. What is health? Like, what is optimum? What health? Like, what is it? Like, that's the interesting thing, And so we have to define it first before we redefine it, right? And so I think that conversation is important. And do you have anything to say about that, Mick or Charlie?
Yeah, I think opening it up for everybody to kind of talk about that would be, the point of this experience.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's just important to get away from robots, like seeing ourselves as robots, as material, as chunks of metal and, or, flesh and bone, but really as quantum fields, energetic fields. Yeah. I think that's a big part for me.
So before we even get into that conversation, I do want to share my screen with you guys. So let me know if you guys are all seeing this. Obviously, we want to have fun with this and be creative, but we also want to give you guys some real stuff going on, right? So this is the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. This is a wonderful organization by physicians in America that is, and I don't know if you guys may know about it or not. It's definitely worth checking out, and just being discerning, right, in your own way. But they're really interesting. They give a lot of really science-based, research-based evidence, talking about news, and there's some major news things going on right now, and how people are being aggressively going after eating animal markets, and also maybe this might be something to talk about with plant-based diets and how impactful plant-based diets are in this current time with this pandemic, right? It's interesting how we can start looking into those things more, look into the research, and us doing the research on ourselves. I think that's the important thing too. Being able to understand, like, hey, what if I change my diet? What happens? And we're going to talk about that more with everybody here. But I wanted to go over some of these things and check that out. So one of the things that was down here I want to bring up, so you guys definitely should check this out at some point. It's really good. And they have really good petitions that start to try to stop like certain drugs from, getting out there that might, be, so this one's interesting. And I think we should definitely at some point, this happened December 6th of last year. And New York makes plant-based hospital meals the law. So that was an interesting thing to bring up. And really quick, I would love to, open up the conversation to everybody for, the next 10 minutes or so. And then at 7:30, we'll start with our first guest, Dr. Kiran. Did I say Dr. Kiran? Yeah, awesome. All right. So let's unmute everybody. And who wants to share anything about any current news, like positive news, progressive news, about what's going on, and maybe even talk about what's up with this, and what's health, what is health? You can answer that too. Anybody got any thoughts about what they think health is? How would you define health now? Like, what is the health now, right now?
Wow. Well, can you define it? Really, I think that we shouldn't define it, and we should keep it open because it's constantly growing. And definitions are just boundaries and boxes that people and society and organizations put on. So health is something different for everyone, right? But if we think about it in a human rights perspective and we say that everyone deserves good health, we should still keep that broad, right? Because for me, it means that, you know, everyone deserves access to food, not just medicine and not just healthcare, the way we think about clinics and hospitals. But the article you put up, December 6th, right, 2019, come on. Seriously? You know, like, we've known about nutrition and the effect on health since, like, the Vedas. This is, I mean, it's absurd, right? It's absurd when, you know, I work in a hospital, and what do we end up eating as doctors there when we do these shifts? Like, there's nothing good available usually in those shifts. And it's yeah, I mean, I don't think we should define it really. I think we can talk about what health entails, but make sure
that's a great perspective, Raghu. I think that's it. I think that's really challenging. You're right. Like, when we actually look into the epistemology of it, you can get lost, you know, in trying to define it. Does anybody else have any thoughts about that?
I think a word that I've pivoted to, at least in my practice and in like my personal journey, is more wellness. That doesn't quite speak, I mean, it can speak to, you know, kind of what Raghu was saying about like global population and access for everybody. But really, I think it comes down to your personal connection to what's going on with you. So you might have health issues that challenge you physically, somatically, mentally, emotionally. You might be suffering, but I think there's always a way to kind of transform your relationship to what it is that's going on with you. I think that's the life experience, right? That goes back to everything that everyone's said so far, whether it's more, you know, energetic, you know, what your perspective on what kind of beings we are, the fact that we are just coalesced frequencies in the physical. There's a lot to be said about the betterment of wellness, the betterment of well people. That's a Michael Pollinism that I think is actually an age-old kind of concept. And as far as this New York hospitals thing, it's fascinating to me. I think it's really important because I think we all know that hospitals, cafeterias, these are all environments with crappy food. But as a Chinese medicine practitioner and as a meat eater myself who struggles with anemia, I wonder what the repercussions of like blood disorder, you know, patients with blood disorders and all the rest, if, you know, maybe they're getting iron transfusions, I don't know. But yeah, it's just interesting to see how that would play out.
Yeah, actually, you know, does anybody else have any thoughts before I? You got the courage. You got the mic. Okay, so you know, I'm gonna segue that right away, you know, into opening the floor and inviting our first guest. Hey, can we get some music or something, or like some sort of like, hey, hey, can we get like some cheer, like if we're good, like an audience? All right, everybody in this corner, woo! We've got Kiran, Aulakh, come on, come here, yeah, Kiran, come on. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Likewise, good to see you. High five.
High five. Wait, hold on. We can't do high five, so it's got to be like an air five because it's, you know, you don't want to.
Zoom five.
Zoom five.
Kiran, welcome to the show. You know, I want to definitely introduce her. She's, you know, she's an amazing. I would say she's a star, like literally a star when it comes to, you know, integrating medicine and being at the forefront of doing it. And I think she's has a pedigree for it, like coming from the family she comes from, a family that really cares about health. I think it's important that, you know, she's carried on that legacy. And she's doing amazing stuff with it, you know, in San Diego, of all places, which is there's a blue zone there. So I'm sure there's some cool stuff you could talk to us about that. But tell us really quickly, like, how did you get here? Like, how did you get to being like the kind of acupuncturist you are? Because you're not just a normal acupuncturist, So how'd you get here?
Well, first of all, thanks. I appreciate all that praise. I kind of feel like my arrival to Chinese medicine and all the rest of the modalities I use, basically just all the healing that I do, it's felt like I've been arriving for all of like my whole life. Who knows, it's been multiple lifetimes, I don't know. But essentially I struggled with some physical pain as a teenager. I had really bad TMJ issues. And my parents, while they do have a lot of healers and physicians in the family, it was very Western. So my grandpa and my grandma, he was an MD and she was a nurse. They met in a hospital. While that has been filtering through my family, we really only had access to like allopathic and Western and biomedical care. So my mother, who I adore and hold nothing against, she really only could think of like muscle relaxants for the incredible like muscular pain that I would get due to the TMJ. So just real quick on musculoskeletal issues, if you have one kink in fascia, in your connective tissue, it's really, really easy for something else in the web to come along with it. So since I was untreated, I mean, I was dealing with untreated scoliosis and all kinds of things. I was like bedridden for a little bit when I was 18, going off to school.
Hold on, wait, hold on. Are you saying that some things are related to other things in your body?
It's a wild concept, isn't it? This whole like holistic thing. It's
wait, hold on, 1 second, hold on. I thought everything was like compartmentalized and like into like all these sections, and they only get messed up in like a section, and then you like just put chemicals in there.
Yeah,
isn't that what it is?
That's kind of what we get taught, right? We categorize things, we compartmentalize, we're reductionist, we put everything into their separate categories. And so this is something Charlie can probably attest to also as an acupuncture student now. There's something really powerful about your shift when you start studying Eastern philosophies, especially. And that's probably something that a lot of people here can relate to. But as I chose my career 4 years ago and chose the acupuncture path, not only did I have to go through the trials and tribulations of med school, but I had to go through the paradigm shift. I do have mostly, I'm very multi-ethnic, but I was raised in a Western paradigm. So I did have to kind of pivot into this, 5-element, everything's related, everything generates something else kind of mindset about things. And that's what's been so powerful about acupuncture and Eastern philosophies in general. Yeah. You're muted right now.
I'm muted. Well, I'm muted because there's like oh, there we go. So I have a question off of that, and it's totally unrelated. What's your spirit animal?
Oh, I think most often, oh geez. Okay, so my first thought was horse, but lately it's been the winged, and so like butterflies and hummingbirds have been like really showing up lately. What's your spirit animal?
Oh my gosh. Oh, then if you're gonna ask me that, we're gonna have to ask everybody. My spirit animal is I think right now what's coming through is like a cosmic, like a flying lion bull, like a bull that's also a lion that's flying, that's wings.
Heck yeah.
How about you, Mick?
You can ask everybody, huh? I mean, I associate really strong with the owl for most of my life, owls and hawks. I grew up in Colorado, and I actually had a lot of encounters with both, so they spoke to me directly.
Mick, do you know what we call the owl in Punjabi and Hindi?
No.
It's called a ullu.
Ullu.
Ullu, like O-O-L-O-O, ullu.
Ullu, ullu. I like it.
That's breadfruit in Hawaiian.
What did you say, Kiran?
That's breadfruit in Hawaii.
Ulu, really interesting. Yeah, cultural intelligence there. I wonder how that works. All right, so anybody else? Wait, Charlie, what are you?
I think I feel like a monkey right now. Curious monkey, curious George.
Are you one of those ones with like a mask, like the monkeys with a mask?
No, I think I wouldn't probably cover my face. I totally want everybody to know how silly I was.
What about you, Raghu?
What am I, Indy?
I don't know.
I want to know what you think first.
You want to hear? Oh, wow, dude. All right, we're going to do some analysis, critical analysis. All right, so let's see. I would say you're like you're like a killer whale.
Oh, I was gonna say dolphin, but that's killer whale works. Okay, okay.
I think dolphins is what you see yourself as, but I see you as a killer whale.
Oh man. Okay.
And I can explain that because I feel like you have this, propensity that you're just like slick. Like you can be really slick. You can come in, you're very observing, you take your time, you're like assessing everything. You're a gentleman, right? Total gentleman. But if you need to come in and knock that iceberg, if you need to knock that piece of ice and get that seal, you will knock that shit up and that seal will go flying and you'll jump out of the water. You're going to jump out of the water and catch that seal while he's like, ah! You're like, that's you right there. And then you just go back into the water and you're just like chilling. Like nothing happened, like James Bond, just like, you're just like chilling and swimming.
I will accept that with a lot of heart.
Did you get the metaphor at all?
I did.
Anybody else? Or do you want to say what you said dolphin? So do you want to say anything about that?
No, I just I think it's a flow, right?
The flow.
Out, so
okay. So Prachi, do you have a spirit animal?
You called me in, huh? Mine shift according to like which ceremony I'm doing. I would say the bear has been very powerful for me, as well as like the strong felines in terms of like the panther and the lion.
Nice. You do realize that you did say da bear, and I gotta like point that out, that you like actually said you're da bear. So I just, for those people who understand where that's from, da bears, doubles.
Oh right, yeah. I'm also 2 hours away from Chicago right now, or like less than 2, about 1. So maybe that was like a cultural slip up.
Possibly. I like those cosmic synchronicities, Thank you, Prachi. Brandon, I see Brandon on here. Brandon, what spirit animal are you? Brandon, we got Brandon on the line here. Hello, Brandon. Hello, Brandon, customer service? Hello, it's customer service? Can we help you? Karen, what spirit animal are you? There we go.
Dolphin.
Yeah. What kind? What kind of dolphin?
I don't know.
You get fancy now. It seems like as everybody else asks for another spirit animal, it gets fancier. So you guys better know the type of spirit animal.
It's true. It's true. Thank you, Karen. Keenan, what spirit animal are you?
Hey, I think recently I think a lizard, because recently I've had a lot of lizards following me or coming up to me or like sitting on my lap. So I think, yeah, a lizard, which is first time ever. Normally it's a hummingbird.
I like that. Thank you. Thanks, Keenan.
Yeah.
What about Kareen?
Who is, by the way, my mom. Woo!
Oh, mom. Hey, mom. Happy Mother's Day in advance. She might not be close to the mic. All right. What about Nessa?
Hi. For me, for the longest, it has been the butterfly, and I feel like it's slowly but surely changing into the snake.
Oh, I like that.
I'm excited to see what that's going to be about. I'm still taking it in.
I love that. That's interesting. And butterflies are so important right now too. With everything going on. Okay, I totally got to go back to you, Kiran. I got to go back to you really quickly. Yeah. And I got to say one thing, like what are you working on right now? What is something that you're doing right now that like we all should know about in relation to like, maybe is it relevant also with health and what's going on right now in the world and in our communities?
Totally, thanks. I have been faced with this challenge during COVID and the quarantine. I like I've kind of alluded to, I just got done with 4 years of really cerebral studying and jumping through the loops of licensure so that I could finally get my hands on patients and practice and help people through their journeys. And then I'm having to stay inside. So I have begun to develop some online courses. It's kind of the first time I've ever stepped into this. It's also been a really cool, I'm really glad my mom Kiran is here because she and I teamed up for the first class. She is a meditator and a 500-hour yoga experienced yoga teacher. So she kind of handles the Ayurvedic side of the Eastern philosophies while I handle traditional Chinese medicine. So something that's been really important to me as we've developed this curriculum is that I don't want it to just be lecture. I don't want it to just be cerebral. I want to give you guys and any participants, and I just want to give anyone the tools to work with their own system to start learning their process better. So much of what we're talking about today, we alluded to mental health. That's something that's really come up for me throughout this entire experience, not only my own mental health, but thinking about the repercussions for everybody right now. We're all sitting at home dealing with our shadow selves. We don't have our friends in the normal way to bounce, our crazy thoughts off of, or go to our normal outlets. Like, I'm a climber. I haven't climbed in 2 months now. I'm kind of losing my mind. But there are so many really easy, accessible ways to work with your system. You don't need to go to a professional all the time. Of course, there's a time and place for that, and we're here for you. That's why this is my purpose. But so in the first workshop that we put on, there was kind of like a chakra element, and then we taught a meditation that helps you embody each of the 7 chakras, whether it's through the Sanskrit intonation or whether it's the emotional energetic, and sitting with that and seeing what comes up for you, and then trying to transmute or at least just observe. And then there was a channels workshop where we worked with gua sha, which is a scraping tool. This is really nice for musculoskeletal disorders. It's also really good for mental disorders because you can store heat in your acupuncture channels. Gua sha can release that heat, and once you get rid of the heat that's bothering your heart, you feel a little bit better.
Are these things that are like helpful for people who are kind of immobilized, who like can't leave, who are like even more especially like more scared than other like immunocompromised? Like, would this help people with chronic illness? Like there's a lot of people who are stuck and suppressed. Even when this is over, when the thing gets lifted, the quarantine, people are still gonna stay indoors. Like, would this stuff help? What you're talking about?
It absolutely would. This is something I was really almost inspired by a couple of my patients that are very immune compromised that come see me twice a week or more, that really, I don't want to say depend or rely, but they get a lot of benefit from the work that we do together. And my heart really goes out to them right now because they do so well with body work. So these are techniques. Dry brushing, for example, it not only exfoliates the outside of your skin to give you that glow, but it's exfoliating like your inside. It's moving your lymph along. It's getting rid of debris that's caught in that system. That is amazing for your immune system. Gua sha, anything that keeps circulation going. This is a huge component of Chinese medicine. Stagnation is the root of all disease. Dis-ease, you're not at ease anymore. You've stagnated. And that might come from a mental place, a psychological place. Where have you stopped flowing? Where can you break down the dam? So these are methods. Today I taught an ear seed workshop, so I applied some myself. You can't really see them, but it's the NADA protocol.
I got distracted by your earring. Can I see your earring again?
Yeah, it's got some geometry going.
Benzene? Are you promoting benzene?
Benzene?
Benzene.
Is it like a molecular shape? Yeah. My pharmacology is long behind me right now. But yeah, so I feel like these workshops do have a lot to offer people for their at-home experience right now, and not just for quarantine. I'm always trying to give people more tools to get in better touch with themselves. I think a large part of the malaise in our modern society, maybe it's always been an issue, I don't know, is that people have so many reasons to sweep things under the rug, to not address what's going on. And it's really uncomfortable. And if you're raised in a culture where no one gives you the guidance for how to deal with uncomfortable shit that comes up, then you really don't have the tools for it. You just don't, and that's not your fault. You can only ever have compassion for it. But I feel very strongly about giving people those tools.
So I'm going to ask this of every guest, and I'm going to ask this of you right now. What is something that you like, what is something you would have said, like, if you were the teenage version of you, the young adult version of you, the Gen Z version of you, like, what would you have, what advice would you have given that person, that what would you know now, right? Based on what you know.
A couple things. I would say, you know, exercise and play more. Move, keep your body moving. And I would also, so one big thing that has like been born of this whole quarantine experience that I am so grateful for, I've been leaning into books like The Power, or some Byron Katie, and some other ones that are really just about love and presence and gratitude. And I think that we can really get lost in the sauce sometimes, especially with so many different modalities out there on how to take better care of yourself, how to move through your traumas. But so much of it comes back to just finding presence practices and rooting them in love. And so if I could tell my teenage self, which Lord knows she needed guidance for whatever reasons, it would just be find more presence practices.
Let's get into it.
Well, if we're really going to get into it, I mean, this is something I still struggle with. So I have a very difficult menstrual cycle, and I got my first period when I was 14, and it was a really, really heavy flow. So I was immediately put on to birth control, and I stayed on it for like 10 years. And so I've learned to tread carefully around this topic because not everybody agrees with me. Fancy that. But I am adamantly against contraceptive, against hormonal contraception. I wouldn't ever advise someone to go off of their BC because I think that unwanted pregnancies might pose more difficulties than birth control. But at the same time, I'm someone who's struggling very, very significantly with like endometriosis. So I think that birth control as a teenager, my mom says I was just like, the way she describes it, I forget how you describe it sometimes, like I was on psychedelics, like I was just crazy or something. I was so disconnected from self.
I mean, I personally don't understand how those hormones work because I don't have them. However, I've tried to create them, you know, through meditating and stuff, and I get kind of close, but it's not the same thing. I don't think it's a real thing. But I would say that like I feel like that's a topic that's really important, you know, especially when we talk about health. Is like men's health, women's health, and those are kind of pretty different, you know, and like they're similar, but they're very different too, you know. And so it's really good for us to start to acknowledge that and explore that, and look at the different old modalities, connect the old modalities with new ones, you know, and like learn from each other. And so, you know, so okay, that's awesome. So that's a project you're working on. That's what's happening. I think, and the last question I want to ask you is, if you could get educated, if you could get like cosmic guidance, you know, from anybody through history. It could even be a fictional, because maybe imaginatory people come from a real place. I don't know. I don't know. But who would it be, like throughout space and time? It could be your grandma. I mean, it could be your grandma. It could be anybody. Who would you get cosmic guidance from so you can get to the next level of your practice or your healing modality or teaching or whatever you're doing?
It's really interesting to put it in those terms. I don't know that I necessarily relate to it in that way. I think that I take my cues more from like the Tao. And so that's the way, right? That's the flow. And so I am always just trying to break down my barriers to love and the flow. But, you know, for now, I'm getting a lot of wisdom from my grandpa. And he's not someone that I used to get a lot of wisdom from. But in the last couple of months, I felt really called to him. And the last time I saw him, we just had this heart to heart. And it was super transformative. And if I'm being honest with you guys, I turned 30 a couple days ago. Yesterday, I did this crazy full moon meditation. And my life pretty much pivoted today. Like, change is, like, my horizons are about to change. And I feel really strongly that it had a lot to do with that conversation with my grandpa.
Amazing. Oh, I love that.
But I mean, to speak.
How do you say grandpa? Like, what did you call your grandpa?
Oh, he's Grandpa Lee. He's from the Philippines. His name is Leandre Bautista, but we call him Grandpa Lee.
Grandpa Lee. Oh my God. Well, let's. I always like to think that sometimes people, when they leave this plane, they're actually around us even more, and we have access to them even more. And maybe it's my imagination, but I feel good when I connect to people who have passed in that way. Like it feels good to me. So
Oh, I absolutely agree. Yeah, I see them kind of like as saints, my personal saints.
yeah. Oh, I like that. I like that. Okay, okay. And then I have one more question since we see Dr. Raghu is nourishing himself. which you know what? That'd be hella funny if we saw that on a talk show, like actually on an actual talk show. Like we like there's somebody, hey bro, come bring a bowl of cereal on stage. Let's eat it. Come on.
You just birthed a concept.
Wait, hold
I
on.
like it.
I was gonna say what's funny is I was talking to a film person earlier, and he was talking about how they purposely have people who look amazing, like Brad Pitt. If you watch any Ocean's series movies, he's always eating in every scene. And they try to like humanize people, which yeah.
I still don't believe.
So
I still don't.
I'm really good looking. I'm trying to humanize.
I was gonna say that Brad Pitt still doesn't look human. He's still, even when he's eating. Okay, Kiran, I'll ask one more question of you. All right. What advice would you give? What advice would you give me if you just like by my personality? What is there anything you would advise me, or that would be helpful for like right off the bat? What could you tell?
I mean, Indy, you're so inspirational, and I think that you have your own wisdom and guiding wisdom. But I guess what I could say is that, well, no, it's just I would have to as a practitioner, I would have to say that I really would need to spend more time and palpating and really feeling into your channels and everything else. But one thing I could say is that there's a lot of hyperactivity, and so I wonder if ever there's but I mean, I know that you're grounded and I know that you create the things that you want. So I see that you're in your process and I respect that. So I'm only saying these things because you put me on the spot, but so I respect your process. But for other people, I would think that sometimes slowing down might have some fruits, to harvest. But I don't know that that's right for you.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I have a question. What would be some of the major chronic issues or problems that people could come to that Chinese medicine is really good for that traditional medicine hasn't helped, and what are people coming to you for these days? Or would be coming to you, sorry.
Yeah, and what will be coming, right?
Right.
So the reality, and maybe Raghu can talk to this too, can speak to this, is that in the United States, chronic disease is on the rise. It's actually it comprises the major healthcare expenditures in this country, and allopathic biomedical healthcare systems are simply not equipped for those health disorders. Because those are things that require long-term care, they require different modalities, they require an integrative team, and they also require active participation on the patient's behalf. And so you don't really see a lot of those elements in the biomedical system. So what can Chinese medicine help? I think the first thing people think is pain. And I've been treating mostly, my specialty, because I was a massage therapist before becoming an acupuncturist, has been pain. So yeah, I know that pain is something that TCM can treat, and mental disorders for sure, psycho-emotional, spiritual issues that are manifesting as something else, something that we can get to the root of. But then you get to, immune, autoimmune issues, digestive issues, these really chronic, long-lasting things that you can really get to the root of. Women's health, fertility, menstrual issues, the list, stroke patients, the list goes on and on. I never want to get too, I don't know if arrogant is the right word. I like to be careful with how I say it. Yeah.
Kiran, is there research?
There's so much research, but I do have to say, so PubMed is an amazing resource, NCBI, for evidence-based, evidence-informed practice surrounding acupuncture. Especially, you'll get into all the really nitty-gritty biochemical physiology that's happening when a needle gets inserted in the skin, how that releases endorphins, and how that breaks lysosomes open, and then that informs the body of other stuff. And the fascia and connective tissue is just the internet of the body. But I will say that acupuncture and the nature, the individualized nature of it, the quantum nature of it does not respond well to clinical trials, because in a clinical trial you have a control group and then you have the experiment group, and you're acting as if they all had the same exact constitution, as if they all ate the same thing that day, as if they all had the same DNA and the same nurture and nature, which would make them completely, they would respond the same to the treatment, and it's just not the case. So we really need to be forwarding the way that research around acupuncture happens. I think specifically case studies need to be given more weight, but absolutely. I mean, there's especially acupuncture today in the West is all about integrating. So we spend a lot of time in school going over, designing research studies and looking at a lot of research.
That's excellent. And I think that's important. That's like an important thing right now, right? There's a lot of misinformation, disinformation. We definitely, as I like to embody the idea, the mythology, the archetype of scientist, right? And I think it's so important for us to appreciate the science, the research that people have done, the work that people have done to, either justify something or justify. I mean, I don't know what the right word is, but to prove that it's wrong too. And I think all that stuff is very important. I also think it's important for us to explore where we haven't been yet. That's where we invent. That's where, the mystery, the unknown. Even as a researcher, that's important. You are a practicing researcher in a lot of ways, because you can go through the research, but you're actually working on people, literally. So the research you're doing is on people, but it's like it's in viva. Whereas instead of in vitro, you're like doing it in the real world, rather than in like a lab.
My mentor has always said that our patients are our greatest teachers. And, alluding to what you were saying before, I love the concept of fringe and frontier. So as you move away from the core of what's known, you start pushing into, you start expanding into the unknown. And so you can get kind of fringy, you can lose your grounding, or you can keep pushing that frontier and expanding our realm of knowledge and wisdom. And so I think we didn't really get to talk to it about it today, but I invite everyone to check out these resources for yourself. I practice neural manipulation and visceral manipulation. There is some really cool stuff about the body, and about how each organ has a consciousness, the consciousness of every part of anatomy. Bones have a different consciousness than blood does.
Kiran, will you do us the honor? And we already talked about this, but I'm gonna put you on the spot as well. Will you try to maybe create some kids educational content that also is digestible for adults? And eventually, as we keep going with Cosmic Lab and Labyrinth, we can add artwork to it, right? We can help you with artwork or even maybe cartoons or whatever we need to do to kind of explain these things so they're more under. Will you contribute in that way?
I love that. And also hearing that there's opportunity here for collaboration more so than what I thought, because I'm over here with all these good ideas, well, what feel to me like good ideas. And then it's like, wait, I would love to have a visual, or I would love to have, a graphic for that, but that ain't me, so that's cool to know that everybody's here for it.
That's it. And I think if we can articulate what that message of talking about the consciousness and all the things that in our body, if we can articulate that to children, then it'll make sense to all of us. So. Yeah. But that being said, thank you, Kiran. Thank you. Okay, so will you stay on? So you're still on, right? I would love for you to stay, just like on a talk show. You move a little bit over.
Over on the couch.
You move a little over on the couch. Before we bring on our next guest, I definitely want to share something with all y'all. So it looks like I'm sharing my screen. So this is a kind of a commercial, guys. We have a next week on Wednesday, we have a Cosmic Lab after school, and it's gonna be really awesome. We've got Brachi and Cody, who are gonna be doing a really cool presentations. Cody's gonna go first, share things about fairy. It's the next class in our fairy school. And so she's going to do some meditation in there, talk about a little bit more about tarot, more about fairies, how to cultivate that energy as well in a helpful and healing way for children and adults, I guess. And at the same time, she's awesome. Like, I must say, I love Cody and how she's able to articulate things to empower children in a really beautiful way. Prachi then is going to be doing an amazing session about water, the magic of water, and talking about Dr. Emoto's work with the water and how what we think about with water changes the way the water is, and how we drink it, how we cultivate it has an effect on us. So, if you have kids, kids, I mean, parents, who might be able to, this might be able to support them right now, because a lot of kids, and this is free. So if there's anybody who needs something like alternative to do with meditation, also we're going to do, if we have time, I'll do some dancing and movement. I said Bali Bhangra yoga, but you guys know what I'm talking about. And then outside of that, I think it's something we consistently do every Wednesday from 1 to 3 p.m. We're going to be doing this. So just letting you guys know, let people know, let parents know. Dr. Kiran, Kiran's going to create stuff for kids to, help them. Nessa did a conscious cooking class last week, which is awesome. And I hope she does more, because they're freaking awesome. And so it'll be cool to do more of those conscious cooking workshops, so a play shop, so kids and adults can eat healthy and knowledge. And Nessa will talk more about it when we bring her on, but she's doing her thing. So I'm gonna go back, and we're back. Oh my God, hold on, I gotta do some noise. La 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 la. Okay, hold on, some noise. And we're back, everybody. Oh my God, what a great commercial. I just imagine for a moment that we actually have a commercial in between that, and that's where we're going. And eventually, we would love to have commercials where we talk about your guys' stuff. And I posted about Blue North Acupuncture on the link, so you can see. But also, if people want to reach out to Kiran, email her on there, connect with her. Maybe you want to attend her class, or you want to, maybe like Dr. Raghu, doctors that want to go, get a little bit deeper during this time, they have extra time. This would be kind of good to do something online with like somebody like Kiran, so they can get add to their practice, and also be healthier themselves, right? So I'm just throwing that out there. So next we've got, oh my God, yeah. We got Dr. Raghu. So everybody, let me get everybody go. Let's get this cheering. Let's get Dr. Raghu. And everybody, we're calling on Dr. Apasani. Come on up, Dr. Apasani. Come on up. Yeah. Woo!
India, I think my hair is longer. I think my hair has gotten longer than you now.
Yeah, dude, we're competing, dude. Pretty soon we could be like Avatar.
That's wild.
Pretty soon we could be like Avatar and connect our hair. We'll just connect our hair like Avatar.
Hold on. Yeah, it'll be so fun. Okay.
So Dr. Raghu, Dr. Raghu. Okay, let me introduce Dr. Raghu. Okay, Dr. Raghu.
My middle name is actually Kiran, so.
I didn't notice that, by the way, so right on.
That's a cool coincidence. And I would like to say, Dr. Raghu, I would say, dude, you're an amazing dude, and I'll put this out there. There's a lot of people out there. I mean, I got connected through Raghu through a good friend of mine, who I think the world. I think he's an amazing, diplomat in the world, and so Dr. Raghu is like, he's like this amazing. He's done all the hard work. He's like studied hard. He's done the good Indian boy route. Like, he's really checked all the boxes, right? Done it well. But the thing is, he's also like explored, his own conscious. He's explored, other people at other walks of life. He's served. He's gone and really made a point to travel around the world and give back and be of service. So whenever he gained knowledge, he's given back to people around the world, given back to young people around the world, which is really important. And what's really cool about Dr. Raghu, we talk about this too, is that, we're Indian, we grew up in America, in the West, we've assimilated, we're doing all this stuff, but what about giving back to India? So, he started a nonprofit, Minds Foundation, I'll share about it, and they raise mental health awareness in India, and throughout India, and with the South Asian diaspora all over the world. And that's freaking amazing, because, there's a lot of, shame, right, when it comes to mental health. So it's really important the work he's done. So, Raghu, like you gotta, just like Kiran did before, we really want to know, how the heck did you get here? Like, what is the philosophy that got you here? Like, what, like, how are you who you are? Huh?
Well, okay, I'm trying to answer that question on a daily basis. So, literally had a conversation today and yesterday with a dear friend, and I was like, I'm trying to figure out my brain and how it functions, because I feel like I'm at this weird crossroads, right? Where like I can dive real deep into the research and the medical and all of that stuff, right? And doing meditation research and EEG data. But then for me, there's always been this like flame of scale. And it's like we have one unified consciousness around the world, right? And people forget that, or have forgotten that rather. And so how do we get back at it? And so for me, it's like, Kiran, you mentioned our patients are our biggest source of teaching, right? And I think that's completely true, especially working in Los Angeles and the county system with, a lot of patients from Skid Row and with lots of trauma and substance use layered upon severe mental illness and health. It's tough, and it's like, it's draining, but I learned so much from them. Not only, how to treat and things like that, but like really how to treat and get down to the source and about life and journeys. And it's like a privilege to have that opportunity. But at the same time, the inefficiencies in the healthcare system and that frustration that Indy talked about when he was in medical school, I had that to the point where, like I got another job offer in medical school with McKinsey, which again, still sort of like this Indian boy thing of like, okay, you went to like a consulting firm that has a name, great. But, I had like the letter like lined up to quit and everything, because I was just frustrated of like, why is the, ego is healthy, but why is the ego getting to a point in physicians where they can no longer communicate? And I was severely disheartened when I realized that the majority of doctors can't communicate. And it's like, you have to communicate, because if you don't communicate and educate, you're not empowering anybody, and there will never be long-lasting change if you don't provide empowerment as a tool. So I think that's sort of what I grew up with as well. And like going real back, I mean, I was born here in Boston. I was born in Boston. Now I live in LA, but I was born in Boston, and then I was there for a year and a half with my parents, and then I lived in India in the same village and home actually that my mother grew up in for about like a couple of years till I was about 4 years old. And I was there with my grandparents and like an uncle. And I saw my parents like once, I think, during that time frame. So now as a psychiatrist, it's interesting to think about attachment theory and the development of object relations and all of that, and how that might have affected me. And I mean,
what part of India, by the way?
It was like 6 to 8 hours north of Hyderabad in Andhra Pradesh, which is now Telangana. It's a different state. So it's like central and South India. Yeah, so, obviously, like, you develop a certain relation with the land that you're in and you're walking around. And so growing up, I was a little bit more independent on my own, and it makes a lot of sense now, because my family was very open. We shared a lot. It was not the traditional, you have to do this, this, and this. It was like pretty liberal to an extent, and it was also like my mom was almost like the breadwinner, right? My dad got the opportunity to try to do crazy entrepreneurial things. He was a scientist, but scientists don't get paid well. But my mom was the one that had like the consistent job with health insurance, and stuff like that. So even that role flipped. So growing up with that role influenced me a lot. And my father encouraging my mother to do education and go through college and all that, and supported it. Even though they got she got married when she was pretty young. So I definitely have that, and I really appreciate that relationship with them. The one thing though, Indy, that my mom is still like, you haven't checked off is like, you have to start a family. I was like, you should try dating in a pandemic.
She's whatever. We'll just get you engaged without meeting the person. Come on.
Yeah, right. Because now she's like, you're 30. What are you doing? Like, you just work so much. And I'm like, yeah. But anyway, yeah. So I had this journey. Of I was doing research. I was in the lab. I was like doing all that stuff in high school, college. Went to Wesleyan, which I don't know how many people know about that school in Connecticut, but it's pretty liberal and great place, like awesome liberal arts education. I mean, best time of my life, but it's a pretty liberal school. And I ended up studying a lot of philosophy there and getting into conscious thought and theory, and yoga. And, it really helped me a lot with anxiety, which started brewing at that point, I think, thinking back to it. And I started Minds at that point because I was working in these research labs and learning a lot, and I loved my mentors, but there was something missing, right? There was like this disconnect of, all right, we're doing all this stuff, but how is this like helping people in like India, right? It's helping this person in this like fancy lab at Columbia and this hospital, but like, how is this helping the rest of the world? And how do we create innovations that you can really deliver to everybody? So yeah, I went, like Indy said, I went and volunteered in Bihar, in India, Northeast India, very impoverished area, exposed me to a lot of disparities. And the biggest thing I learned was like having that opportunity to just like be present and listen and learn from people's stories. And I had some families who started going through the mental health system in India at the same time. And so a lot of pieces came together. And for me, like, it came down to, wow, there's like a few people working in the space, right? They're trying to change policy, which is not the most effective way. You got to do it, but it's not the most effective. There's like standalone clinics, but like, how are we going to create real change? And it's about like meeting people where they're at and providing them like knowledge, right? Giving them that power. So Minds formed on that ethos of like, let us go into communities and just listen and learn and create curriculum around it and deliver in a way that's accessible, whether it's through play or street plays or video or discussion or door to door, whatever it is. And so it's all about like, you don't need to think at a crazy systems level, right? It's about do it at a community level. And if it's working, it'll scale by itself naturally. So that's really what we've been doing. And it's like literally going to schools and communities and villages and providing this education.
Raghu, that's a good segue. I think I want to bring up like what right now it's Mental Health Awareness Month. And is there anything that's coming up that you're doing or your work, like especially with like, are you guys raising money? Are you guys doing initiatives this month? Yeah, I'm curious about that.
So it's interesting. Yeah, it is Mental Health Awareness Month, but it's Mental Health Awareness Day. We are always raising money, but I think in one sentence, my vision is like, what can we do and support that just like reignites empathy and compassion, right? We don't necessarily need like another application to journal and like input your mood, right? We just need to think about the stuff that can do that. And for me, what that means is building community and allowing people to share their stories, to have it be healing and therapeutic for themselves, but to not let others feel like they're alone in the journey. And so the way we're doing that is we've had to take a lot of things online, obviously. So we have a series of webinars. We're pumping out more resources like visual aids, manuals for like caregivers as well on how they can really work together. And really trying to step up like video. So I guess my call to action really would be if people post a video of how they're taking care of themselves or share tidbits of their journey and just like tag us, follow us, that's one of the most useful things we can do. We're really trying to pump out content in that way of more visual and just like creating this acceptance. So we are raising funds to kind of make sure we can create consistency around it and support the organization in that way. On the ground, our staff, even though India's in lockdown, they are still going and doing home visits and counseling as much as possible. This is like a 3 to 4 hour radius of villages that we serve. It's about 300,000 people, for like a budget of $80,000 a year, right? So we have staffed in India, we're like serving. So it's a lot. And so, yeah, we are raising money, and every dollar literally goes a long way because, I mean, you see the ratio there with the impact. Indy, like what I really learned is power of community, and you're building that here, right? You've always been building that. And that's what we try to do at our events, in Los Angeles that you're at. And the power of storytelling. So share your story as much as you're comfortable with, and just, it might just help one person, but that's powerful.
Where's your, what's the name of your book, and where can we buy it?
I don't have a
if you did have a book, imagine if you had a book out right now, what would it be called? It's a bestseller, New York Times bestseller.
I don't know, maybe Open Journey, Endless Path.
Ooh. Oh, open.
Yeah, it's just about it's about not staying within the script that people have handed us. Right. And it's about ensuring that we keep that curiosity, like Charlie mentioned, the curious monkey, like keep it there. We all have a little bit of every animal. So
I think that's a good, I would read it. I would definitely read that.
I have a quick question. What's the best way to be tagging you or hashtagging? Because I love the thought of social media being a platform for vulnerability, and not just like, look at my perfect life. It's like, no, this is real and raw. So I would
we got to stop that. Like, if you're not always happy, there's something wrong with you, because we got full range of emotion that should be reflected.
Yeah.
So the organization is at Minds Foundation on Instagram, and it's on Facebook, Twitter, all that jam. And then I'm on Instagram. I actually just added you, Kiran. So,
Cool.
But it's just at R.Appasani, which is my name. And it's been great. I got an amazing, the other thing I try to do to kind of support people is, like, for me in college, I didn't really learn any practical skills, right? It was like a liberal arts school. So I try to get a lot of younger people involved as volunteers and interns, and just to really learn the skills. And so we got someone on now as our communications lead who's been more amazing than any professional we've ever brought on. And she's half a year out of college. So she's already she took us from 700 to over 1,000 followers in
wow
2 days or something. So
wow. Okay, Raghu, what would you tell your young self, your teenager self?
Yeah, I had this realization in 2018. So I would tell myself that you're not going to serve anyone until you serve yourself. And that's why I moved.
Nice. Okay, I like it. Then I'm going to ask you that other question what was the other question I asked, Kiran? Kiran, what was the second question?
Oh, yeah, I got an answer for that.
Okay.
It was something about who would you want to connect with, or
mm-hmm.
right?
Who would you want to learn from? You want to take yourself to the next step of your journey.
I'm going to create a mold of a few.
Oh.
Is that cool? Okay. I think it would be a blend of Krishnamurti, Yogananda, and Dali.
Ooh.
Because I think being in Dali's brain for creativity would be pretty wild. And then the other two, I love a lot of their, principles and guidance.
Certainly, I think Krishnamurti and Yogananda were exploring health in a very unique way. They were receptive, but they were also having connecting a lot of faith. I feel some scientific faith as well, not just faith, spiritual faith.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, I'm part of the Center for Mindfulness Science here at USC, and like our whole goal is that we know these practices are effective, right? Meditation, mindfulness, we know they're effective, but people want more evidence around it, right? And so we're trying to prove that, and we're trying to deliver on that. So yeah, it's like I understand the resistance, but it's like, let's do it, because it's not like we've made too many advancements in Western medicine in the past few years.
It's true. We can play around now. All right. So thank you, Dr. Raghu. Okay, wait. You got to stay on, but you got to move down the couch.
Can we ask something? Because this is in line with what we're talking about what Cosmic Labyrinth represents, right? And it's the whole idea of spirituality and technology. And I think what's great that you're doing is you're actually using the technology itself to really bring consciousness, conscious ideas, so that it really helps mankind, right? Because as we talk about in astrology, this is the age of Aquarius, and this is really about using the tools to help us connect to each other, but doesn't take away our humanity, right? Because that's really, we have to find that balance, that technology is here as a tool, but we haven't been using it for the best of our health, right? Or the best version to help us kind of grow as people, souls, or human beings. So I think, I've been in that space where I've seen tech kind of go too far one way, where it became too materialistic. It's about whatever consumerism, and it's not really fulfilling. How can you actually support us as humans? So it's really important to really show how social media has actually now can be used for mental health and helping people kind of talk about the vulnerability in in a forum like social media.
Yeah, totally. Indy, I want to add one more thing. I know you're, this is really cool though. So I'm doing a dating during the pandemic webinar on Thursday. You guys should check out our website. We're going to have a whole series of webinars coming up. And if you actually click the register part, Indy, this site needs some work. Yeah. So I was just talking to this guy, Ken Page, he's 63. He's been in this space for a long time, and he does these events, and it's about bringing people together to actually just meet around interesting questions. A super cool guy. But one thing he was telling me today, which I found quite interesting, was fast circuitry versus slow circuitry, and how with dating apps, it puts you in fast circuitry, right? Which means that essentially you're basing it on attraction, but the people who are most attractive to you in that fast space are those that have ignored you in your life at an earlier age, or in your prior life, and you're unconsciously swiping right or whatever on them because you want the opportunity to correct that relationship, right? And so now with the pandemic, we're actually slowing down. And slow circuitry allows us to think about being attracted to a person who inspires you, right? And makes you feel good about yourself. And so I guess the thing that I've been contemplating is like, will this sustain itself? Like this desire for finding that depth. And we're going to talk about it on Thursday, hopefully a little bit deeper.
Register here. Register right here. Right here. Right here.
Like even with the rise of dating apps, there's actually the same and sometimes more number of singles in the world.
Oh yeah. Oh, look at that cow. Oh my God. I certainly think there's a lot of aspect for that. I think that, thank you for facilitating that. I think, love is a big part of mental health and physical health, right? And actually when everybody's on, when we have all three of you, I definitely want to have a few questions to ask all of you together. And one of them is going to be related to that, and love is going to be connected to it for sure. Okay, so everybody, are you guys ready for the next person? Raghu, can you move over on the couch a little bit? All right, so next we've got Nessa Varez. Let's bring her on, everybody. Bring a cheer on. Come on, yeah. Woo! Nessa, holla in the house. Welcome, Nessa. Oh my God, your background changed. You were like in the kitchen. I thought you were gonna cook for us. I was like,
I just did an amazing what is it called? Broccoli and coconut milk soup. So I'm gonna indulge into it afterwards. But now I was just snacking a little bit on dates and some carrots and celery and hummus.
Well, I like to put it, right away when I like to introduce you and let everybody know that you've been fasting for Ramadan.
Yes, so it's actually the 4th year that I'm doing Ramadan. I'm not Muslim, and I'm not doing it for religious purposes. I started 4 years ago, basically as a personal challenge, kind of like a spiritual journey. And I just wanted to experience that because there's still, all our Muslim friends are doing it every year. And I just wanted to like step in their shoes for that little experience. And after I did it the first year, it was such a beautiful and amazing experience that I kept doing it. So now it's my 4th year. And every time, like now was the first time that I actually was like looking forward to it. And so, when you break your fast, you have like your little sacred moment, and you just learn again to appreciate everything so much more. And the not eating food during the whole day is really doable. That's not really the challenge. It's more so the water that you're not, you're not intaking anything. So, somebody wants to come say hi. He's like, hey, you're ignoring me. I'm sorry.
I mean, Nessa, I think that's beautiful. And we definitely will. I want to talk about that later. I have some curious questions about that. But before we even start, I want to introduce you guys to everybody or introduce everybody to you and let everybody know that, Nessa's an incredible, I think she's an incredible spirit. I mean, her spirit is so free. The way she approaches things in life, and she's actually really, really super smart and intelligent. And it's so awesome how she's able to synthesize, different understandings in her cultural intelligence, how she's able to listen to people from different walks of life, different backgrounds, and create her own synthesis of something. And now she coaches people for nutrition, for health, for wellness. She like so many different kinds of people from around the world because she speaks multiple languages. She's open to receptive people. I mean, it's so cool. And she's traveled around the world and volunteered, worked with different communities around the world, from Africa to India to Europe and refugee camps. But on top of all of that, and what's really special about her is that she is, she's receptive. Like she's like this beautiful feminine energy that's, beautiful and radiant, but also with a lot of intention, with a really deep purpose, to create health, to, improve diet, improve the whole caveat. So Nessa, how did you get here? Like, how did you get to who you are now, the kind of coach you are, the kind of student you are? What got you here? Like, were there any hurdles? Were there humps that got, how'd you get here?
That's a really interesting question, because if I just thought about it not so long ago. If let's say 7 years ago, Nessa would listen to Nessa now, she would not recognize her. So that's like really completely two different people. And I think the start of all this journey was actually when my dad passed away in a surprising way. And, so often when you listen or hear people's stories, it always starts somewhere with something dramatic. And in that case, it's kind of with me the same way, that experience. So maybe just to circle back beforehand, who was Nessa before? She was completely plugged into the corporate world. I grew up in Switzerland. I graduated economics and business. I had a pretty good job, driving a nice car, and, thought that was living life, right? Then this whole thing with my dad went down, and, actually being there when somebody that is your father, so you witness taking him his last breath. Mm-hmm. It's something that, that sticks with you for a while. And it made me question a lot of things. It made me see how precious it is and fragile at the same time. And that was for me really my turning point. And literally a year after, I quit everything that I was doing. I sold everything that I had and came to America, not knowing anyone.
Oh, that's a lot of courage.
It was one of the hardest decisions that I ever took. I remember in that plane ride, I was crying nonstop. you know, questioning what am I actually doing here? Like I had no clue what I'm doing, but I was following something and I didn't know what it was. But it was the hardest decision and it was the best decision at the same time. I never regret it. I never look back. Obviously I go back, you know, visit my family and stuff once a year. But going away from everything that was familiar, from what I knew, gave me space and the opportunity to really define myself away from any other labels and environments that I grew up in or were put on me or I put on myself. So that really kickstarted my journey. And now I became so passionate about the things that has helped me to just share that with other people in the hopes that it may help them as well. And for that, for example, nutrition is a big part of it. The exercising, I'm into fitness and yoga, and then obviously meditation and breath work. So it's basically all that. But I believe, or I feel like for a lot of people, the kickstart into that journey a lot of times is the food. Once you start taking care of the nutrition that you put into your body, then it's kind of like a ripple effect into other things, other practices. It cleanses your vessel. It opens up your, raises your consciousness, your frequency. So that to me was kind of like my kickstarting point too, where and it's funny because I was always someone that kind of followed just my heart without even knowing why or what I'm doing. So also with like a lot of traveling that I did in the past, I would literally just book a flight and go, and not having a clue what I'm going to do there or what's going to happen. And it was always amazing. I never had any, you know, bad experience.
Did you always have like trust that, like, where did you get that faith from? Like, where does that, you know, where do you get that conviction?
That's a really good question. So I feel one of my intrinsic beliefs are that I'm very protected. And that already releases so much, or allows me to give up on fear, because I feel like I'm very protected. And that belief even got way stronger after my dad passed away, but I had it even before. And I noticed that when I would travel, that I would feel always the freest and the most closer to myself. And when I would go back to my like 9 to 5 and my regular habitant, that I would kind of lose myself. And it got to the point where from the outside, you could think that I'm living life. I had friends, as I said, a good job. Materialistic wise, I was good. I got, you know, I had a good job, so I got paid a lot. And from the outside, like you could think like, oh, she's living the life. And but honestly, it wasn't like that. So I was miserable inside. And looking back, all of those actions that I took was just an escape or a distraction. And coming to that point, right, that takes awareness. I feel like a lot of people, and even while I was in there, I didn't see that as an escape or a distraction. I thought that that's how that's just how life is and how I am. And so, yeah, coming here, it allowed me to do a lot of like the inner work and realizing a lot of patterns and things that we do to ourselves. Yeah. And it just opens up a whole new world, right? I'm sure a lot of you can relate. Once you start seeing a whole new world, you want to share it. You want everybody to see the other side as well. And I know there's even so much more. So that makes me exciting for this journey. But at the same time, I know that, so I kind of see myself also as a little bridge, and still remaining like very, very relatable, because I know exactly when you are in that hamster wheel. I know how you think, because it wasn't too long ago that I was just there myself. Yeah. So yeah.
I want to, that kind of segues into the question, like what like you're very passionate about, like, I think we've talked about this before, that like, there's different kinds of nutrition, different kinds of diets, and we've talked about like there's a mental diet, there's a physical diet, but then there's also like a mental diet, And then there's also a spiritual diet. And you know, like, so, you know, how are you passionate about dealing with all three of those? Like, what do you do? I mean, you do comedy, you create like these really funny viral social media comedy things that, I mean, what are you doing to kind of help with those different diets, you know?
So yeah, that's a really good part. So even going back to health, right? A lot of times when we think of health, or like a lot of people, they think just about the physical health. When I talk about health, as you just said, it's not just the physical health, and when I talk about nutrition, it's not just what you feed your body, it's also what you feed your mind, who you surround yourself, what are the conversations you indulge, and that's something that I like to share a lot about. And so for me, the same thing, I think it started with just like looking at it from one point to the nutrition. But then that had a ripple effect of like, okay, this body can be very, very healthy, but if in here I'm not healthy, I'm still a very, very unhealthy person. So it's kind of like a ripple effect. And so for me, I always, like when I work with people, when I coach them, I may just, you know, say, oh, we're going to do nutrition coaching, but in the end, it's going to be so much more. And most of the time they wouldn't even expect that. Right? So I start with simple stuff of like, okay, let's talk about nutrition. Let's do this, let's do that. And, you know, physical movement too. Because working out to me is literally like you work things out. Right. Things come up when you work out, right? Even simple stuff, like I always have like mucus coming out, like runny nose, or like I have to like mucus coming out. Same thing, things is working out of your body. If you really challenge someone on a training workout, they might get anger. Yeah. Anger comes up, or they get very sad, right? That is just because something comes up that has actually nothing to do with this workout right now. We're just working it out. Yeah. So a lot of times they think, oh, we're just going to have a workout. Same thing with yoga. How many times when I teach yoga, I have people in my class after Shavasana, they come up to me, I don't know why, but I had to cry, just tears came out, you know? And I'm like, hey, listen, this is beautiful. And sometimes we don't even have to know why. We just released something, embrace it. Because now we know, we all know that energy gets stuck physically in our body. And if we move it and release it, right, it releases emotionally.
So really quickly, can I ask Charlie or Mick, one of you guys, to pull up psychoneuroimmunology or neuropsychoimmunology? I always forget which one it is, but pull that up. And if you want to, we could share that. But what you're talking about right there, there's actually like science, related to not just how your mental state is and your physical, but also how it relates to your immunology, your immune system, which is like so relevant to right now.
Exactly. And that is another thing too, where a lot of people deal with mental issues and they think, oh, it's just me having depression, or me because this and this happened when I was a kid. But a lot of times it could just be that your nutrition is not, you're not intaking the right nutrients into your body. So just by changing that, right, our gut health is connected with immune health. Our gut health actually has the serotonin that is in our brain, but we have to make sure the gut health is right. So a lot of times that connection is missing too, where when you go to a psychologist, they're like, oh yeah, let's give you this pill because antidepressants. Yeah. But then let's first start with the nutrition. And many cases already they start to feel a difference.
I mean, nutrition and the movement. I think movement's really important too, and very underrated. But Charlie, did you find it?
What were you talking, articles? Like
is there anything like Wikipedia, like just like what is like this so we can share that with our community? I think everybody should look into this. You should maybe do your own research about this. It's really important to understand, this it's within us. Every single one of us has this system inside of us. And what, Nessa's talking about, what Raghu's talking about, what Kiran's talking about, it's connected to this,
Oh, cool. Yeah, I also found it looks like it's going to be a good video. Dr. Chris Jaborndal. I could share that here on the side. It's a YouTube video. So, yeah, I'll put it in the link over here on the side. It looks like it's a good intro. to
Yeah, for sure.
psychoneuroimmunology.
So Nessa, really quickly, who would you like get mastership from? Who would you study under if you could be a disciple to somebody right now to go to the next level?
So honestly, the way I look at myself, I'm a student of life. Every encounter that I have, I always go with that intent of, let me see what I can learn from this person. And I don't care who this person is, what kind of studies or accomplishments this person has. Just when I go walk my dog in the park and I talk to a stranger, just right there, I take that as a way of just learning and intaking that. So that's how I would answer that question. I wouldn't just, everybody. I can learn from everybody, every single person that I.
Awesome. So I'm your teacher. Oh,
yes. Oh my goodness. Yes.
That's gonna be $9.99 a month. My advice. You actually you pay me if you don't have to take any of my advice. So anything I say, don't do it, and then you pay me. How's that?
Deal.
If you do what I tell you to do, you don't have to pay me. So.
Oh.
So okay, great answer. That
works if you have blinged out diamond glasses on.
I missed that.
Good one. I'm gonna eat a blueberry for that. That's that one. Blueberry for that. Nessa, what would you say to yourself, your young self? Like, what would you?
I would say I did so much of this inner work, and it's such a beautiful work to really get to know your inner child, to take the time to connect with her and love her. So it's really trust yourself. And the thing that I had for a long time was that thing of like, what other people think of me, and you have to fit in. Like, something so simple. I grew up as a redhead. I don't know if you can see, but I'm a redhead. And
you're a ginger?
You're a ginger. And as a kid, it's like this one thing, right? You're hating your ginger hair because like you're different than everybody else. And now obviously I love it. But it's like those things, like what makes you different is it's what makes you you. And so learn to love that. I would have wished I would have learned to love that sooner. And just trust yourself, and just like
so
it's true too, and for what we're doing with Cosmic Lab and Cosmic Labyrinth is, especially with the kids, we really want to teach them and share with them that gift of like loving yourself, and maybe meditating to get there, doing art to get there, understanding science and connecting science to your body and your mind and getting there that way, or playing or dancing or cooking good food to get, like there's so many different ways to love yourself more.
Absolutely.
So are you going to do another conscious cooking class for us?
I would love to.
So last time it
was tough because I was already on Ramadan, by the way. So that's why I didn't taste nothing.
Yeah, I
remember at some point you said like, oh, I can wait for you to see your face when you taste it. And I remember that I put my roommate in and she tasted it. So that was me overplaying that I'm actually not allowed to eat anything right now.
You know what though? I gotta give you a lot of accolades for being a soldier. Like that looked really delicious. It smelled good. I was like, that smells good. She made avocado burgers like from scratch. And like vegetarian or vegan?
It was vegan.
Vegan, right? And then she made a juice, and she took the pulp from the juice, and the pulp she made bread, right?
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm gonna do right after. Yes.
Bread from the pulp, like so you can make bread pulp.
Yeah.
Mind blown. So okay, you're gonna have to come back, do another one for the kids. Anybody can tune into that too if you guys want to learn some of her cooking tips, and maybe she'll throw in a cool fitness move like like Taibo stuff, something like for everybody. So thank you, Nessa. Is there anything you're working on right now? Is there something that you're doing right now that needs our attention that's really helpful during these times? Is there something you're doing?
So right now, I must say this whole quarantine thing, what made me realize is that, so I'm a Virgo, right? So naturally, it's, I put everybody else that I love or everybody, you know, in front of me. If anybody needs my help, I'm always like, I love that, right? Just like being there for other people and giving and even going overboard and over the top with it. I love that. But this experience now, actually, I feel like for the first time in my life, I was super selfish because, you know, there's less interactions. And I was like, you know what, let me now take this time to really work on things that I've wanted to work for a long time. And I realized how much energy and time there is. And if you put that into yourself, how much you can actually create. So again, a whole new world just opened up for me where I'm like, wow. So I've been working on my recipe ebook that is pretty much almost done. Then I have my own app launching soon. So that was something that I was kind of dragging along for a long time. So that's very exciting. And it goes all into that whole, you know, nutrition, movement, and mindset. Those are like those three things that I combine with that.
And you guys, please check out Nessa. Follow her on Instagram, Nessa Varez. You know her name, Nessa, just together. And she's got dude, you're like way cooler than all of us combined. Like, how many followers do you have, like, on Instagram? 200 something thousand?
160,000.
You're like, so we're like, social currency wise, like we would have, like, we'd be like holding like your, like the rug underneath their feet. Like we'd be like, you know, having to like roll it out for you. According to social currency.
Yes, it's I mean, I guess it just kind of happened. As you said earlier, with like those funny videos, which is funny because I don't do them as often anymore. So my whole content moved from like funny, quirky, stupid videos to now more health and mindset. And I feel like, you know, it takes also time to, like, you know, your audience to get used to that. And I've been, you know, it's been like that for the last 3 years. And they're still like, when is your funny videos coming?
Well, maybe we got to start making crazy, like, Cosmic Labyrinth ones, right? That are conscious but still silly. I want to make silly videos.
Yeah, because I mean, yes, I mean, you know that, like, laughter is one of the best medicines. So and also one of my goals is also to show, you know, that whole, like, being health and conscious. It's still fun. It can still be sexy, you know. You know, it's kind of like showing that you don't have to completely turn somebody else or whatnot, you know. So that's also kind of like my goal, to just show that, you know, you can be fun and sexy and still healthy and conscious and all of that together.
Thank you, Nessa. So thank you so much, Nessa. So, okay, I'm going to ask all three of y'all to show up, like Nessa, Raghu, and Kiran. I definitely want to open up the floor for any questions. If people want to, like, type a question, they can type a question. If they want to get on the mic, they can get on the mic. If they need to be unmuted, just let us know. If you want to ask a question. But Raghu, let's unmute you. Or is he?
I want to say real quick, my friend Kiran is here listening to this. She's an amazing energy healer, and she's also from Switzerland. So that's really nice that she was listening the whole time. Maybe
how do you say hello, and how do you say like, you're awesome in Swiss?
Well, she speaks French and I'm Swiss German, but
yeah.
So in Swiss German is du bist super, like, you're great.
Oh, I was gonna say tout le monde, but, you know.
And I love Switzerland so much.
Yeah, you have two Swisses here.
Where's my watch? Where's my watch?
It's beautiful.
Alphabet organism.
It's really nice, yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and if you want to talk about the planet itself, I was up on a glacier in Switzerland and looking at how that glacier is melting so fast, and you know, thinking about how, you know, the planet itself needs a lot of help as well. The health, yeah.
But before I start taking questions from everybody, does anybody have any questions? I have some questions for all three of you, Nessa, and I would love for us to open up a conversation, and, you know, like, maybe like quick hitting, like, you know, like over a table, how they like, you know, how they like have quick tidbits back and forth. And, you know, one of the things I want to ask you guys about is, like, how is, like, what is looking beautiful and health, how they're related, feeling beautiful, feeling radiant, no matter who you are, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but how is that related to health? So I'm curious. Let's open that up, especially to you three.
Yeah. Well, I would say to get, physiological on it leads to positive affect and mood, right? On how you see yourself and you treat yourself, which in turn is going to decrease your stress levels. Which, I mean, I think everyone here knows the effect that will have on your body overall. But not only decrease your stress levels, but it's going to make you accepting of others too more, right? And it'll help. It's sort of like this seesaw of your stress and your sort of tank of empathy and compassion that you have to give. And so if you're constantly stressed out, this is not going to happen. So when I say we want to create a world that's more empathetic and compassionate, we got to be targeting these things. Like, how do you decrease stress levels through practices and education and healing, as a broad definition, right? So yeah, I don't know. I think that's how I see it.
What do you think, Kiran? What do you think, Nessa?
I mean, in that same vein of thought, I think loving kindness is a really, really beautiful quality to see in a person. I think that can really radiate out of a person. And I'm glad you used the word radiate, Indy, because it's kind of like an informal slogan I've got going for my business, radiance and resilience, because I think that, when you have things kind of in tune and you've got things all online in the body, whether it's physiologically or mentally, spiritually, physically, you have a radiance, and that's something that people are magnetized to. And I think it's important for loving, kind people to be magnetic, because that spreads it.
Yes, I can 100% agree to that. And I think, it goes back to the self-love. And once you get into that journey, the way you see yourself, you start to see others, right? We're like mirrors of each other. And even before, if you would see, a lot of judgment or jealousy or whatnot, it's a reflection of what you have internally going on. So once you start, I guess, tapping into that self-love, and even that, it's almost like an endless journey, because there's always so many more layers and more layers to unfold. But once you start connecting more to your true essence of yourself, and you start seeing yourself as that's how you start seeing others. And for me, that's the truth. We're all beautiful beings here having, human experience, and all this is just the physical appearance, that the way, if you just see yourself as that's how you're going to see others, and that's how you're going to, so I think that kind of goes together. And that for me is a healthy mind too, right? When you can release yourself from all these like feelings of self-judgment and doubt and all of that, then you can release that towards others. And that goes back to having a healthy mind. And yeah.
I'll piggyback on that too. I feel like beauty is like this amazing thing. I was just listening to this wonderful podcast the other day talking about how like being at finding mountaintops to stand on, and when you look out at the top of a mountain, how like that feeling releases all these endorphins. Talk about stress hormones. Your stress hormones drop. You like feel good hormones release just by seeing being at a real beautiful place, with nature and especially mountains. And so I think there's something about that, us cultivating that in our lives, cultivating beauty in our lives, externally and internally. So a lot of cool stuff there. Do you guys have anything to add, Charlie and Mick, about that?
I mean, that's definitely what I do constantly, is cultivating beauty as a way of reducing stress for people. I mean, just a couple hours ago, noticing how so many people in the drawing class that I gave were just so happy to have been drawing something simple like a beach scene, or like exactly that. You don't even actually have to be at that site, but you do have to be conscious of every detail and get into the sensory aspects in order to drop the thoughts away and get into the kind of body sensation. So you can do that through drawing as well, through an artistic practice. And that's kind of an amazing thing about even being in your home locked down. If you can really access all of the sensations through creative practices, it can really take you there too.
Yeah.
I would say balance is really important. I think in a lot of beauty, when we also see synchronous, like where two sides are even or something's very balanced. And I think it's very important, even in Chinese medicine, as we learn, that your internal organs have to stay in balance so that the output is your physical symptoms, right? So a lot of times that we consider what is beauty in today's society is actually the natural color of our bodies and the natural look of our bodies when we're actually in balance within the way we eat, the way we actually sleep on time, because none of us, I mean, being this late right now having this show is probably not healthy for us, but we do tend to stay up late. And, makeup is actually supposed to, like when we say rosy cheeks, actually in Chinese medicine, when you're healthy, when you're sleeping well, the rosy cheek is a natural coloring. But when you're not sleeping well, you're not eating well, some people have pale face or dark face and they put on these rosy cheeks. So it's kind of like what we consider beauty, even in today's standard, is actually when your body's in balance and it's running in its kind of full throttle. So I think we have to kind of all learn how to find balance in ourselves so that, as we slow down, we are starting to notice what is actually important in our lives so that we can start learning balancing. And that's where health is important. I think sometimes, like Western medicine, we like to kind of swing to so many different body energies because we take different, either coffee or alcohol, certain food that is really heightened in, our moods. So I think that's kind of very important, is finding that balance.
So I'm gonna throw a curveball question that goes with that, which once again we go around the room. What is the intelligence in our DNA? Like we all have DNA. Like I hope some of you guys might be silicon based. I'm not gonna judge. All silicon lives matter too. But the DNA in our bodies. There's information. It's knowledge. But how does can that intelligence be activated? Does culture activate it? Does our food do some things deactivate your DNA? Like, what do you guys think about that? Like DNA and its activation, culture.
Yeah, I love that question. I finished the book, The Biology of Belief, recently by Dr. Bruce Lipton. And I absolutely love that book because it talks a lot about that and how we have agency over our physiology just through mindset. And the one example that they gave was people with split personality disorder were able to actually change their physical eye color using their mindset because they were so committed to their belief system that they had transformed into a different being that their body followed suit. And so I think energy emission just in itself can create, the physiology and the physical of the person. And that's so cool to know that we have that capability.
Yeah. Anybody else? What do you think?
From a computer standpoint, when you think about it, it's actually a system of just really programming, right? Because what happens is the cells continually recode themselves with the software, right? But what happened is we see this in cancer cells where the code gets corrupted and they start looping and looping, and it basically gets stuck in this mitosis that keeps reproducing rather than stopping and dying. And so there's all these processes that happens in our body. So actually our consciousness, or even being at peace or happy versus being anxious, creates these chemical reaction in our body that keeps our DNA from actually decoding correctly and copying itself. So the DNA is really a software within our intellectual body that's running, right? And I think spirit is kind of the way it figures out which software and firmware to use. So I think that's why a lot of times people say taking a power nap is like rebooting your computer system. Your consciousness reboots, and then the DNA kind of gets like reset, so it's really, that's why it's important to have all these naps, because your DNA kind of resets to then go back into what were we doing before we got kind of carried away with all these problems in our lives.
Interesting. Do you guys remember, I'm thinking of do you know the show Casper the Ghost?
Yeah, I love that.
You guys remember when we were younger, I guess, I remember on TV there was like, they did this Casper episode where it was, you could kind of like choose A, B, or C of where you wanted the story to go next, right? Or like if you think of that concept of
choose your own adventure.
Yeah, choose your own adventure. And so I try to think about DNA in that way, yeah, because it's almost like our DNA is a story, right? And it has the power to code the proteins and the RNA and stuff of building your thoughts in your mind and your body. And so, we have the ability that it's not just free will or like controlled will. We can sort of tune how we want to choose our story and our journey in that. And so it's a book with a lot of information, and we kind of get to navigate that. And we control sort of the effect of epigenetics on how we activate it through our environment and our behaviors.
Interesting. What do you guys think, Nessa?
The whole DNA thing is such an important and interesting topic. And, it almost feels like the way the world has been happening the past centuries or whatnot, that, our DNA is not even working anymore how it's supposed to. So I think it's like the time, and that's why I loved when that today's topic is redefine health. For me, it's almost like to reclaim it back, our health. It became a thing where it has been almost taken away from us, letting us believe that health is something that we have to go get outside of ourselves from other institutions or doctors or even drugs and medicine, when actually our body is a complete self-healing vessel. And so when I was thinking about today's discussion of like, okay, redefining health, as you said in the beginning, let's first define it. And then for me, it came down to like, well, let's like reclaim it back. And that's kind of like with the DNA too, that we have the power if we that whatever programs have been put on our DNA, on our software, to kind of change those again to how it's supposed to be, or whatever you want to call it. So it kind of goes in the same thing of like reclaiming your health and reclaiming your own DNA.
I like that.
I think also too right now, especially since we have, everyone's under this enormous amount of stress, and a lot of folks don't know how to manage it properly, or you don't have an outlet. Especially, we're going to have like a whole generation of folks who are possibly going to be potentially less intelligent, because a lot of mothers who are in vitro right now have that fight or flight response. So the babies, they receive, this was in the biology, I believe too, they end up having longer limbs and a smaller brain because of the fear and stress hormones that are delivered to the baby. And so we might have a generation of folks, it might affect the next generation pretty heavily in a negative way.
They'll definitely be workers. Somebody's going to have to make sure the machines are, working fine. Kiran, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I love this discussion. I think DNA is such a fascinating part of our reality. It's such a mystery, how long that code is and how little of it we have a real understanding of. I really like what Nessa was saying with reclaiming, because I'm coming back to the thought of what it was, Carol Linnaeus or whatever. He got totally just like shamed for this whole theory of acquired traits, but now we're finding through epigenetics that you can in fact upregulate and downregulate through lifestyle your genetic code. There's really fascinating correlations to Chinese medicine. We have an extraordinary vessel. It's called the Chongmai, and a lot of practitioners see it as our karma. It's the blueprint. It's the first channel that gets laid down. And so from your Chongmai, this is what determines your constitution, but then you can always work with it. We have the Jing, which is your essence. And my mentor, as we were working through some stuff, he said you can use your Jing to transform and transmute. And I thought to myself, wait, I don't want to use my Jing for that. I want to preserve my Jing, longevity. But it's like, no, that's what it's for. Like our DNA is, if Earth is one of our playgrounds for, you know, transformation, so is our DNA.
Cosmic Playground. So you know, thank you. That's beautiful. For me, you know, it's interesting. This question it's been circulating ever since I was in med school, because I had a lot of questions, and when I talked about DNA, when I asked questions, nobody wanted to talk about it, and the professors didn't want to talk about it. And Raghu, you could probably attest to this. It was like, next, move on, next, take your test. So for me, you know, DNA is interesting. I am exploring it more from the perspective of your cultural DNA. Like, what if, like, you know, I'm Indian. I gotta tell you, like, when I was growing up, I kind of disassociated myself from being Indian. But when I got to my 20s and I had my collapse, I went back to being Indian. And I noticed when I started doing mantras, when I started singing and dancing more, when I started connecting to my culture, my heritage, I got healthier. Like literally, like bones, muscles, my activity level, my sleep, everything improved when I started doing things that were aligned with hundreds of thousands of years of genetic development, you know, like cultural development, eating development, all kinds of stuff. And I mean, personally, I feel better when I'm connected to my cultural DNA, you know? And so, I mean, I could be made up too, I guess, right? But I think there's something about us, there's something within us that we've been cultivating for generations, that if we tap into it, even I think about African-American people or, you know, whatever, like what if they were able to tap into more of that cultural DNA? Would that also improve their physical health, right? Would that improve their, so I wonder about that with like even Latin American, indigenous people, you know, like that's really interesting to me.
Yeah. You know, I think with South Asians, there's an interesting thing. I've been thinking a lot about trauma, right? Because this pandemic is sort of a collective trauma. And talking to other sort of South Asians or Indian Americans, you know, the way that trauma is defined is very much like Western based. And it's like something that was tangible and happened. And I think with a lot of South Asian cultures, or even other sort of majority minority cultures rather, it's more like based on like shame and guilt that is like built over time, right? And so that actually has a significant like effect on your DNA and how you are going to process things and see yourself. So maybe there, and I think because of that happening to us in the diaspora and having had that happen, we sort of do what you did, Indy, where you like disassociate from that culture, or you try to kind of define yourself in a way. But internally your body's fighting this battle of there's certain positive things to it because that is our community in essence. And that's like within us to get back attached to it. And so it's like this tug of war battle that's based on like how we need to redefine trauma to then maybe accept it a little bit more. And then we can start this healing journey or this acceptance of your culture and your cultural makeup and DNA at an earlier age, right?
Sure.
I don't know if any of that made any sense, but this is all a work in progress in my mind.
It all is. Everything is. What do we know, actually? That's the greatest thing is, you know, at the end of the day, when we claim we know, you know, things are changing all the time. So we also have to be, especially as doctors, scientists, nutritionists, physicians, whatever you are, we are, you know, we have to also be open that things might change. There, you know, there might be new science, there might be new understandings, and that actually makes us better. It's more empowering, actually.
Yeah, totally.
Any last, I mean, we've had Kiran and there's a 713 number. Do you guys want to add to the conversation? Do you guys have any thoughts? Kiran, you want to say it in, you could say it in German and we'll pretend like we understand. Like, oh yeah.
I don't speak German.
What do you speak? Oh, if you can speak in French, that's fine too. I mean, well, I understand a little bit of French, so I can play along.
You're funny. I'm good. It was great. Amazing.
Je m'appelle Indy. Comment allez-vous, hein?
Ça va et toi?
Ah, ça va bien, ça va bien.
one question that I like to
something.
ask, and it could be kind of like a wrap-up question, really kind of think future ahead as we kind of, it's not just us gathering and talking about it. What are some ideas that we see in the future? I mean, what would be some major things that would need to happen in our environment, in our culture, in our society to really help us kind of get the right attention for this conversation, right? I mean, what will we need to do in Chinese medicine? I mean, I've had this conversation all the time. There's an education part to this conversation too, right? Like, how do we what would it have to take? Would the government have to say, hey, I mean, this was great recently with allowing Chinese medicine to now be, we can claim insurance instead of using it for pain management. And so instead of using opioids, they can actually prescribe Chinese medicine acupuncture to help with pain management. So would it have to be more of from a medical space, or is it about trying to get people to kind of find each other, find what Nessa, maybe, like, how do we get people to, like, find out?
So Charlie, are you asking, like, what are some next steps
that are actions?
Call to action, but also like best versions, like best reality versions. Yeah. Like, what is like if you can envision that happening and visualize it, what would that be like for all of us?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, Nessa, go for it.
I really think that, and wholeheartedly believe that this is now the time where people are going to be more open and more receptive for, like, all sorts of alternative medicines, right? So so I'm super excited for the future, especially, a lot of you guys have been practicing this for years and have maybe had some difficulties for, like, bringing it to the broad masses because people are still in this school medicine type of practices. So I think this is really going to open up a whole new world for us, and business opportunities, and just being able to impact and help way more people. So I truly believe that everything that is happening right now is just divine timing, and it's gonna open up people way more to this. And me and Kiran actually are gonna go, are in the process of getting more into frequency healing. So that has been very, very exciting. Yeah, I truly believe that this is the time now for, like, all these alternative, and just keep talking about it, and spreading that message. And the testimonials already exist all over the world, right? That's nothing new. This practices exist longer than school medicine. So yeah, I don't know if I understood the question right the way.
Yeah, I think it will. What we need to do first is like break this wall between, like, medical professionals and society, right? And have an integration to start the conversations, right? And I think that will help a lot. The medical school I went to, we did have alternative and complementary medicine electives and things like that. And it was pretty open to it, which was great. But maybe we have to stop using the term alternative and just, like, start integrating into the conversation. So, I think, like, I'm sort of at this intersection, right, where I deal with a lot of people who have, like, very severe mental illness, and sometimes this Western medicine thing is, we need it. Like, they need medication and structured environments and that treatment. But we've gotten to that point, right, because we didn't take a lot of these other preventative measures. So it's going to take time, but I think that both sides of the spectrum have to kind of start meeting in the middle and integrating together on how we're going to do this. And that's really that's what we have to do. It's
Dude, you're not supposed to talk about your patients, okay? You're talking about me again, and have you on that medication, dude? You're supposed to keep that private. Don't you guys have an oath?
I love that you use. Oh, sorry. I love that you use the word integration, because I think that's really the key, is integrating, between professions. One thing that I kind of had the idea of doing, and then I saw it being echoed by another acupuncturist. So there's been a little bit of joining forces would be to create some sort of like infographic and make it go viral. And so that everyone sees one infographic regarding, I mean, I'm bringing my profession to the table, which is acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine, and educating people about the fact that the healthcare system is overburdened and there are so many other essential services out here that are not being used to their fullest capacity and that could be helping so much. So when I create that infographic, I already have some drafts. If anyone would be open to sharing it, just kind of getting the word out that we are, you know, unified in our intention. We're here to serve, and you know, we're here together. We're here with one intention. And if people can recognize that, get that visual cue, and you know, we can make we can make jokes go viral. Why can't we make something like this go viral?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, you know, I think that's completely, I agree with that. That's so cool. But it's about also making sure people understand like what level of care they need depending on where they're at, right? And I think that because that understanding is not like global and widespread, it's easy for someone to be like, I don't want to do Western medicine, or the other side of that, like, I don't want to do like Reiki or like meditation. And they go to these like extreme levels of like review, right? And so with an infographic, you gotta like strategize, like, okay, here's like the benefits of all these different levels, and just like, here it is, now you can use it.
I also think like what you do, Raghu, is really helpful. You're already doing it, is creating these conversations. Like you were doing live ones before this pandemic happened, and where you'd bring doctors together with like shamanistic meditation teachers, whatever, and you have them all in that conversation. And I think creating those in more communities, and also, you know, bringing it to communities at risk, right? Like, people who are African, you know, marginalized communities, people of color, whatever, going into their spaces. You know, I worked with the SFPD last year. You know, I think going into like law enforcement, going like diving in and being like, look, here's all the different perspectives together. You know, and you can see how it's going to help you like a package, right?
We could do like a Kiran squared.
Yeah,
I love it.
So we have our Facebook group actually for great opportunity for anyone who is on there to actually put anything on there, and let the group also kind of self-collaborate, so we can, you know, after these events, Friday Night Lights, you know, we can have everybody kind of continue working offline, and eventually we can have you come back in like a month or two and say, hey, what have you kind of done, and see if the community can help us and help as a group.
No, this is awesome. Indy, you're always up to something, man. And
yeah, man.
You know what? This is how we really met. We commented on a mutual friend's Facebook post about like appropriation of yoga or something, and it happened.
Yep. We really vibed out on that. We broed out on like on Facebook anger, you know.
Exactly.
I mean, I would like to, you know, I think, you know, I think it's important too, you know, that we also like cultivate these relationships. I mean, I think even just in this conversation, I already saw like synergy, you know, between some of you guys, Raghu and Kiran and Nessa, and how maybe you guys support each other. There's relationship and connections. I see that already happening. And obviously, Kiran, you're on this call doing amazing stuff out there in Europe, and maybe there's a way to intersect one day where we can do like, also like maybe some sort of cosmic events, right? Where we can bring together multiple people, like a conference, you know, and invite people from communities and give scholarships to people too, right? If they want to learn stuff or get basic workshop and understanding. I mean, there's a lot that can happen from this. We're building the community, we're building the tribe. You're a part of it now. So, you know, this is like as much we're decentralized, you know, whatever you guys want to contribute, that's how much you own it. This is how we're going to do it. We're going to do it in a different model, you know, and see what happens.
And she's in LA too. She's just originally from Switzerland, but she's in LA as well.
Nice. Thank you.
Yes, I'm in LA.
Nice.
No,
Kiran.
actually from France, but it's all good.
Hey, Kiran, I want to acknowledge you also for, you know, dropping some energy. Like I saw like you like doing all kinds of awesome stuff there, and I'm like, all right, do it, girl. Make it happen.
I am always.
You're like blasting me. I felt it. I was over here, like my heart went.
That's so funny.
Does anybody want to have anything else to share? I mean, I could be on this forever with you guys. Like I really love all of you. And Karen, I just met you, but I love you too. And I think you guys are all amazing human beings. So,
how's your heart today, Andy?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
how's my art? My heart or art?
Heart.
My heart. So before we started this, I actually went to the park and I meditated there. I did yoga. I played flute. I connected to my heart. Like when I play the flute and connect to nature, man, I'm telling you, like out of body, out of mind. I feel really centered. And then from that space, it's like I could do anything. Like there's no challenge, no obstacle that's big, when I'm in that space. So I feel like that today, and you guys are making it a reality. So it's like, thank you. Feeding my heart. Feeding my heart.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Thank you, guys. So I love you guys. Have a wonderful weekend. If I can leave you guys with a meditation tonight, and anybody watching this, right, here's an easy meditation we could do for redefining health, or bringing back health, reclaiming health, not defining health, not I don't know health. What I want to suggest and put out there for all of us, all of you guys, and everybody watching this, let's tonight before we go to sleep, while we're going to sleep, while we're going into our sleep, let's really start to articulate in our mind, visualize, maybe even like a movie, right? Imagine what is the future like? What's next year like? What's 5 years like for the most optimum health? Like what is like our healthcare system? What's our healthcare environment? What's the world like with health? Right? Let's actually let's think about it, especially with this pandemic. Like where can we go from this, and visualize it as you sleep. Like let yourself sleep with those thoughts kind of like coming up, and let them be what you want, like the optimum, the possible version of it, the possible reality. Is that cool?
Love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Awesome.
And that includes your guys' success.
Beautiful.
So like whatever you guys, that's you in that picture of health, right? So like you are gonna be rocking it. All right, like you Nessa are gonna be rocking it.
Yes.
You're gonna get Oprah like super healthy and also spiritually healthy. She's gonna be like, oh my god, you get
spiritual help.
she's like, you get an island, you get an island, you get an island, you all get an island.
Right.
Cool guys, I love
Right.
you. You can
All right.
take off. You can stay on here. Charlie, me, and Mick are gonna stay on here, but be well. Have a good night.
Wonderful.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you.
Have a good night, everyone. Till next time. Bye bye.
Bye.
Be calm and peace.
Buenas noches.
Be calm and peace.
Noches.
Be calm and peace.
Noches.
Bonne nuit.
Bonne nuit.
Bonne nuit.
Hasta luego.
What's the other one? Kudafis. Kudafis.
Ah, nice.
And do you know we were on Facebook?
Yeah, I saw that, dude.
Yeah,
Do we stay connected to each other?
Karen, why don't you leave your email in the chat?
Okay. I will.
Yeah. Hey,
Yes,
guys,
I saw that. Wait, say what, Milk?
Oh, yeah. No, go ahead.